So there was this young boy, and this young boy, he did pretty good in school in every subject except for one, and that was math. He really struggled in math. For some reason, his brain just could not grasp these math facts and these equations and all of these things. He really struggled with it. And it was about the end of the semester, and he had finals coming up. And of course, he had his math final. But he was determined to do amazing on this test because if he failed this test, he could end up failing the entire class. So he devoted himself to it. I mean, he was doing tutoring hours a week, were dedicated to passing this math final. The day finally came. He took the final. He actually felt pretty good about it, but he was super nervous waiting for the results. And his parents were always like, "Do you know what you made? Do you know what you made? Do you know what you made? Do you know what you made?" And he's like, "As soon as I find out, you will know." So the day finally comes when he opens his email and he sees that his grades are in. So very nervously, he opens up that email. He looks at his grade and his heart is filled with joy. He passed his math final. He passed the class. He is full of joy. And he goes to his parents. And his parents, they say, "Did you find out? Did you find out what you made?" And he looks at them and it's like, "Yeah." They're like, "Did you pass?" And it's like, "No, I didn't just pass. I passed with flying colors." Have you ever heard that figure of speech, flying colors? What does it mean? He didn't just pass, but he super passed. He overwhelmingly passed. He had overwhelming success. He did better than he thought he would ever do. He didn't just make a passing grade. And that's what I want to talk about today. So Romans 8, verse 37, Paul says, "Yet in all these things, we are more than conquerors through him who loved us." So remember, Paul is talking to Christians who are groaning, who are suffering, eagerly awaiting for Jesus Christ to come back and redeem their bodies from the earth. They're suffering, they're groaning, and Paul is encouraging them and telling them that, look, nothing and no one is going to separate you from the love of Christ. Even though you may feel like a sheep left for the slaughter. And all these things, and all what things? Remember, he said tribulation, distress, famine, nakedness, peril, sword, and all these things. You are more than a conqueror through him who loved us. Christian, listen. I'm not sure what you are going through, but listen, you who love God, you who have the love of God poured out in your heart, and you embrace God's good purpose in your life, though it includes suffering, you know He's sanctifying you. You trust in Him. You are following Christ, walking in obedience by faith. Christian, listen. No matter what you go through in this earth, you are more than a conqueror. Now, this word is huper. Now, I don't want to give a Greek lesson. Why do I say that? This is the reason. Because the first part, huper, it's actually where we get our English word hyper. So this is hyper conqueror. This is above a conqueror. And Christian, whatever you go through, you are huper nikomen. You are more than a conqueror. You are a hyper conqueror. You are a super conqueror. You are an overwhelming conqueror. But you're like, but I don't feel that way. Ivan, this is hard. I don't even think I'm going to make it. I mean, this surely is going to cause me to fail. How am I to endure this trial, this tribulation, this distress, this famine, nakedness? I don't have my needs. I mean, like Agur prays, do not give me too little lest I steal and profane your name. But it seems the Lord has given me far too little. And now I have no choice but to depend upon myself and profane his name, trusting in myself. Ivan, you don't understand. I mean, I have to provide for my family, for our needs. Or maybe it's persecution, or maybe it's danger, or the sword. I don't know what it is. But listen, Christian, you will not only come out of the other side a conqueror, you will come out the other side more than a conqueror, a hyper conqueror, a super conqueror. You will overwhelmingly conquer whatever you are going through. And you're like, that's good to hear. That eventually I will overwhelmingly conquer. But what about right now? Well, notice Paul's language. He doesn't say you will be more than a conqueror. He says, yet in all these things, in the midst of all these things, you are more than a conqueror. Christian, right now, whatever you're going through, you will not only come out more than a conqueror, right now, you are more than a conqueror. You're like, I don't feel that way. I'm so weak. Well, notice what Paul says. He says, yet in all these things, you are more than a conqueror in your own strength, trusting in yourself, because you're so strong, because you're so good, because you're so righteous. No. He says, you are more than a conqueror through him who loved us. It's the love of God. That is, remember, every detail in your life, the love of God has ordained to make you more like Christ, all the way to your glorification. Every detail in your life is the love of God, and because of that, you are more than a conqueror. It's because of the love of God, not because of your love or my love. That's waxing and waning. That's failing constantly. Not because of your righteousness or my righteousness, we are sinners, but because of him who loved us, we are more than conquerors. But how are we more than conquerors? Well, simply this way. We won't just make it through. We won't just be sustained on the way through and come out the other side. But in every detail, we are being made more like Jesus Christ. We are being sanctified, refined like fire refines the gold. We aren't just conquerors. We won't just persevere through it. We won't just endure it and come out the other side. But in every moment, God is paying special attention to us, making us more like his son. Is that not your greatest desire, Christian? He's making us more like Jesus Christ every step of the way. He's sanctifying us. He's testing and building our faith. Remember, Peter says it's to test the genuineness of your faith. Remember, Paul says that tribulations produce perseverance, perseverance, character, character, hope. James says trials produce patience. And let patience have its perfect result, that you are perfect, complete, lacking nothing. You won't just conquer, and you aren't just conquering. You are more than a conqueror, Christian, because of him who loved us. So listen, I know it's painful. I know it hurts. But be encouraged. Because as we have said before so many times, it's not because God doesn't love you. Your trials, your tribulations, so on and so forth is evidence of the love of God. And you are more than a conqueror because of it. and you will come out the other side more than a conqueror, even if it causes your death, which we'll speak about more next time. But just think of it. What happens if they kill you? They only promote you into the presence of Jesus Christ. Listen, Christian, you are more than a conqueror.